For over 40 years, one idea has sat at the front of every business school on Earth. Michael Porter's 5 Forces, the single most famous framework in the history of strategy, the map that is supposed to tell you whether a business is even worth starting before you bet your life savings on it. I learned it in business school. I have watched executives bet entire companies on it. And I think, in 2026, it is quietly walking some of the smartest people I know straight off a cliff. So today, Porter's 5 Forces goes on trial. The charge is simple and it is serious, that it has gone blind to the very thing that now decides who wins and who dies.
But to judge it fairly, you have to understand why it became so powerful in the first place. So go back to 1979. Back then, business strategy was mostly instinct, gut feel, war stories, and a confident man in an expensive suit. Then a young Harvard professor named Michael Porter did something genuinely radical. He took the hard logic of economics and turned strategy into a system, something you could actually analyze on paper with rigor. His book, Competitive Strategy, became the Bible of the MBA, taught to millions of managers. For the first time, you could look at an entire industry and predict where the profit would live and where it would die. That is why this one diagram conquered the business world. So let me show you what it actually says in plain English. Forget the jargon. Imagine you decide to open a coffee shop. Porter's claim is almost insulting. Your success will have very little to do with how good your coffee actually is. It comes down to 5 forces, all squeezing your profit at once, and you control none of them. Force 1, rivalry. Look up and down your street. How many other coffee shops are already there fighting for the exact same customers? Every one of them is a reason for you to drop your price, run a promotion, stay open an hour later. The more crowded the street, the harder you work and the less you keep. That is not bad luck. That is structure. Force 2, the threat of new entrants. Ask yourself, how hard is it for someone to copy you? If all it takes is a rented room and a second-hand machine, then the moment you start making real money, 3 more shops open right next to you and compete it away. When the door is that easy to walk through, your profit is always under siege. Force 3, the power of your suppliers. You don't grow the coffee beans, you buy them. You don't build the espresso machine, you buy that too. If just a handful of big suppliers control the things you cannot operate without, they set your costs and they quietly keep the margin for themselves. The less choice you have, the more they take. Force 4, the power of your buyers, your customers. In a world of phones and price apps, they can see every competitor's price in 2 seconds, and they will happily walk across the street to save 50 cents. When the buyer has all the information and nothing keeps them loyal, the power is theirs, not yours. And Force 5, substitutes. This is the sneaky one. It is not the cafe next door. It is the thing that replaces the whole habit, the machine in their office kitchen, a cheap can of cold brew from the supermarket, anything that means they simply never walk through your door at all. 5 forces, all pushing inward on you at the same time. And here is the genius of it. If you map all 5 honestly, you can predict before you spend a single dollar whether anyone in that business can make durable money or whether they are all just renting profits until the next price war. As Porter wrote in 1979, intense competition in an industry is neither coincidence nor bad luck. It is structure. It is almost physics.
And for a certain kind of business, that physics is real and it is merciless. So before we attack it, let's be fair and call our first witness to prove Porter completely right.
Exhibit A for the defense, the airline industry. If you want to watch all 5 forces fire at once, watch an airline. They're suppliers. They buy their planes from essentially 2 companies on Earth, Boeing and Airbus, and they buy fuel and landing slots at prices they do not control. They're buyers. That is us, and we sort by price and switch airlines for $9. Rivalry is savage, substitutes are everywhere, and a new low-cost carrier launches on any route that ever starts to look profitable.
And the verdict of the market is exactly what Porter's model predicts. The airline industry's own body, IATA, says it in black and white, using Porter's framework. The structure of this business has destroyed shareholder value for almost 30 straight years. In 2022 alone, a net economic loss of $45.6 billion. The structure ate the profits, precisely as the diagram said it would.
Need a second witness. Groceries. Net margins of about 1.6%. That is a penny and a half of profit on every dollar that comes through the till. Same five forces, same brutal result. A commodity product, powerful buyers, savage rivalry, and almost no way to escape it.
Now this channel is always fair, so here is the honest caveat. Lately the airline gap has narrowed and a few of the best-run carriers have started to earn back their cost of capital. But the 30-year pattern is undeniable. And the lesson stands. When an industry has stable boundaries and a commodity product, Porter's 5 forces is still one of the sharpest tools ever invented. The defense rests. Then the prosecution stands up and calls the most valuable company the world has ever seen.
And if you are not deep in technology, here is who that is. Nvidia makes the GPU, the chip that started life drawing graphics for video games. Then the world discovered those very same chips were perfect for training artificial intelligence. Today, almost every AI system on the planet, including the ones in this episode, runs on Nvidia hardware. In an AI gold rush, Nvidia sells the shovels.
Now go back to 2015 and run Porter's 5 forces on the chip industry. What does the framework tell you? Run away. It is brutally capital-intensive. You need billions just to enter. The buyers are giants who can squeeze you. It is painfully cyclical. By Porter's logic, this is an ugly, unattractive industry. The model would have screamed at you to avoid Nvidia at the exact moment it was about to become the investment of the decade. Today, Nvidia is worth roughly $5 trillion, the single most valuable company on the planet. And it does not earn ugly commodity margins. It earns a net profit margin of around 63% in an industry where 10 to 25 would be normal. 2 to 6 times the field, numbers that Porter's framework says should be flat-out impossible in a business that looks like this. So how did the model go blind? Because Nvidia's real advantage was never about the industry. It was about the company. Nvidia spent 15 years building a piece of software called CUDA, the language that nearly every AI system on Earth is now written in. Walk away from Nvidia and you do not just switch chips, you have to rewrite all of your code, retrain your people, and rebuild everything you have. That is a moat, and it is nowhere in Porter's 5 forces. And there is a second engine, a data flywheel. The more developers build on Nvidia, the better its tools get. The better the tools get, the more developers come, a loop that compounds on itself and that no competitor can simply buy their way into. Network effects, ecosystem lock-in, a learning loop, none of it lives in the industry. It lives inside the company. And Porter's lens looks straight past all of it. And here is the twist that should settle the argument because it comes from Porter himself. In 1997, Porter co-authored a study that broke down what actually drives a company's profit. How much came from the structure of its industry? About 19%. How much came from the company's own choices, its own strategy? 32%. Porter's own data says the company matters more than the industry. He spent the next 40 years pointing everyone at the smaller number. So let's be precise about what is actually broken because this is the heart of the case. Porter's 5 forces measures the industry, the average, the water everyone is swimming in, but it has no box, no arrow, no place at all for the things that now decide who wins. It cannot see a software or ecosystem moat like CUDA. It cannot see a data flywheel that compounds over time. It cannot see network effects where every new user makes the product more valuable. It cannot see complementors, the partners who quietly make you stronger. It cannot see the switching costs that trap a customer or the brand and the trust that money simply cannot buy. Every one of those is a company-level advantage, and Porter's framework treats all of them as if they live outside the map. That is the blind spot. Porter assumed the industry was a fixed arena and that the smartest move was to find the best position inside it. But the companies that won the last decade did not find a better position in the arena. They built a brand new arena, one the old map does not even have coordinates for. So here is the ruling. Porter's 5 forces, flawed, not dead, demoted. Is it still useful in 2026? Yes, for stable, commodity industries with clear boundaries, it is still brilliant. Does it survive the AI era intact? Only halfway. It is blind to ecosystems, to software, to data. And is it dangerous if you misuse it? Very, because it will confidently, politely tell you to walk away from the next Nvidia. It is a beautiful answer to a question that fewer and fewer businesses are still asking. How do I win inside a fixed industry? The real question in 2026 is the one Porter cannot answer. How do I build something the industry cannot contain? Before I close the appeal, I do not just trust my own verdict, so I handed it to the 2 other most powerful AIs on Earth and told them to tear it apart. The verdict is right. 5 forces is still useful for telling you when an industry's economics are structurally awful, but it is not enough when the profit pool is controlled by a platform, a standard, or a learning loop. The strongest point is Nvidia. Industry averages would never predict 63% net margins, but CUDA and the developer ecosystem do. What matters most in 2026 is identifying the control point in the ecosystem before you analyze the industry.
I believe the verdict is correct, and its strongest point is the diagnosis of Porter's fundamental blindness to intangible assets. The framework analyzes industry structure, but it completely misses how a data flywheel or a software ecosystem like CUDA allows a single firm to rewrite the economic rules and escape the competitive gravity of its own sector.
Both of them agree and they sharpen the blade. Find the control point first, the ecosystem, the standard, the flywheel, before you ever analyze the industry. Verdict confirmed.
So if Porter is only half the map, what is the other half? We don't just bury the old theory, we hand you the upgrade. And it begins with the one move Porter never made. Stop counting only your enemies. Porter's map shows you rivals, suppliers, and buyers, everyone trying to take a slice of your pie. But it has no room for your allies. So think about the iPhone. Apple did not win because it beat other phone makers on Porter's forces. It won because of app developers, companies that do not compete with Apple at all. They make the iPhone more valuable. More apps mean more reason to buy an iPhone. More iPhones mean more developers show up. Those allies are called complementors, and in 1996, 2 economists, Brandenberger and Nailbuff, finally put them on the map. They called it the value net, your enemies and your allies on the same picture.
So here is the operator's rule for 2026, 3 questions that Porter's diagram simply cannot ask. 1. Who are my allies, my complementors, and whose platform am I really standing on? 2. Do I have a flywheel, a loop where every new customer makes the product better for the next one, the way every new developer makes Nvidia stronger? And 3. Only now run Porter's 5 forces as a second pass just to check the ground beneath your feet. Here is the whole case in one sentence. The old game was find the best seat in the room. The new game is build the room that everyone else has to walk through. So stop asking, is this a good industry to compete in? Start asking, can I become the thing that everyone else depends on? And only then use Porter to check the terrain. Position first, structure second. That is one giant down. Next time we put the most beloved idea in all of business on trial. The moat, Warren Buffett's favorite word, and why in the age of AI most of the moats you were taught to build are already melting. This has been Business on Trial. Court is adjourned.